What's up, you guys? Sean Ross Sapp. Welcome to Fightful. Here with a name you know. How could you not know him, man? He's taken over YouTube, the original Tough Enough winner, but he will be at Black Label Pro's Crowning Glory on September 4th, Wednesday. It'll be live streaming for free on Chris Van Vliet's YouTube channel. I'll be there as well, but I think you might care a little bit more about this fella. We got Maven. How you doing, man?
Oh, don't undersell yourself. I'm going there just to, I told Dean I'm going to see you.
Oh yeah.
To hell, I've met Chris before. Hell, I could care less. I don't watch wrestling much anymore. I'm going to see you, Sean.
It's so funny because I did a video. Gosh, it was a few months ago. I was like, I just want to shamelessly try to get into the recommendeds of Maven's videos. So I talked about the times that I ran into you and met you, and like I'll never forget. Like I was
Chicago, right?
Yeah, Chicago
was the last one. Yeah,
in the airport, and then the first time, like I hadn't wrestled in like 6 or 7 years, but I was doing a little spot in the same cluster that you were doing,
right?
And my co-host was eliminating me, and she was so nervous. We run into you, and you had this cool, calm, collected demeanor, and you're like, "Listen, it's just fun." He's like, "I remember you say, there's no way you can mess up in this match. There's no way."
Yeah, that was one of the matches that they have it set up for just craziness. I mean, you got Joey. I think it was Joey Janela. He was coming in and out at throughout the 2 hours that it was going on. It was something that's fun that they've actually taught that crowd to expect. And it's, when you think about it, it's genius, because then you can't F up. And knowing that when I was going out there, just go out, have fun. If you're having fun, they're having fun. That's the best way to think about it.
And it's funny because I saw a recent video you did about Anthony Green, who had said you were his favorite wrestler. And I love that guy. And you were like,
he's the only one I believe. He's the only one I believe.
So the other one is Shazza, who you carried out there. And right before I saw you in Chicago, I worked my first real match in like 8 years. But I mean, like, we had started our little feud there, but I had just wrestled her like an hour before I saw you at the airport. And that's where Dango was coming from too. How is it for you, even though you say, I don't really believe these people that I was their favorite, but when they say, you were the person who inspired me, you were the person that motivated me.
Well, all right. Inspiration and favorite, that's two totally different words.
Fair.
Completely different meanings. I mean, like I get inspired by things that necessarily aren't my favorite things on earth. Like, I'm not my favorite wrestler. I'm not my favorite wrestler of my generation. So to say, but Anthony Green and Shazza, they actually proved it. Like, she was showing me like pictures of her like kissing my photo and stuff, and I was just like, man, it's literally mind-blowing, because I know how like just stupid I am. You know what I was doing an hour ago? I was right outside this door off my office, filling my bird feeder up, because I like watching wild birds. I like watching wild birds come in, and it's just like, I don't know. So when somebody tells me you're my favorite, I'm humbled by it. I'm thankful. Now, when they tell me that I inspired them, well, that actually carries meaning to me, because that just means I did something that, left a note, left an impression on them, and that means way more to me.
Well, one of those things that definitely left an impression on people is obviously the Undertaker elimination, but I adored that moment for a completely different reason than a lot of people do. Like, I would point at, up until recently, the camera work, the last 10 years, it was all cuts, zoom, shakes. And I would always point to Maven eliminating Undertaker as, I thought, some of the best camera work, production that ever existed. There weren't like cuts to the audience and stuff like that. It was you two telling the story, and we could hear the audience. We could see the audience going crazy in the background. Was there any specific direction that you got for that?
No.
Because that's amazing, because all those facial reactions were perfect.
I asked Taker, and I remember like during the day when we were going over it, and I'm terrified, like, God, because I knew everything I had done like hinged on this one night. And I remember asking him, do you want me to do something? After I eliminate you and you're out, do you want me to come and is there anything you need out of me? And he told me, he was like, just react. He's like, just if you feel something, do it. And he's like, and then when I come back and just react. And so everything you get is 100% just reaction on the fly. And I agree with you about the camera work, because you realize once you get into the business that, every time action takes place, they cut, the shot to another shot. And that's just because it's easier to, if somebody, if you go throw a punch and you miss by, this much, it's easy. It's harder to see, from a different angle. And I don't care what people say, wrestling's a television product now. Yeah, they fill an arena up, but their target, the TV audience, because then they can sell ads and everything. But that instant shot of Taker's face and of that guy holding the handheld and his just look of sheer disdain, like, I'm not kidding. Sean, when he came into the ring, I didn't know if I kicked him too hard, because I thought he was really pissed at me. I'm like, oh shit, what did I do? But it's just him being just one of the Mount Rushmore talents of all time.
And I mean, your facial reactions from the entrance all the way until after you did it, like, I was like, oh my God. The story was told over the course of 2 minutes. And then it's like everything else that happened after that was a sequel. Like him whipping your ass everywhere was like a completely different story at that point. Like,
the only acting that took place was after I went through the popcorn machine and I'm laying on my back. I wanted to get up and just jump for joy because I knew it was all over and I knew we caught it off.
When you get to the back, like, what's the reaction for that? I mean, I know a lot of stuff's going on there because it's the Royal Rumble, but I mean, everybody had to know that was a home run spot.
Yeah. And it was one of those things where, I mean, obviously people are giving the credit to Taker and rightfully so, because without him just having the courage to actually let a rookie and, probably at that point, the biggest rookie ever in the business to do that on him and to say, I'm going to be just fine. If anything, this is going to help the business. All the onus going on him was well deserved. All I did was hit a drop kick, and I hit the one move that I could throw. That's all I did, and the rest of it was just reaction. But I knew I had done something when all my buddies from HWA were calling me, and I mean, this is 2002. We didn't have the text message that we have now. We didn't have FaceTime. They're calling me. I remember getting a call from Umaga Eki, and him telling me, just being like, "Yo, brother, that was some good shit, brother. Good shit." Because remember, not only was I at that time still trying to, earn my keep up on a WWE locker room, I still had guys down in HWA, the Jamie Nobles, the Charlie Haasses, the Ekis, the Rosies. I still was trying to get their respect. So knowing that night helped that as well meant the world to me.
You mentioned your drop kick, obviously one of the best drop kicks we've ever seen. I pitched to Dean, who many know as Mojo. I was like, you all could have like some pro wrestling inspired combine events here, like the vertical leap specifically on a drop kick. Like, that's something. Had I got to see you and Mark Jindrak go with that, like, I would have watched that.
Yeah, if you think about the four I would have put in that, it would have been me, Jindrak, Orton, and Holly.
Bob Holly's was so good.
Bob threw a damn good drop kick too. I got to be honest, Jindrak wins that. Jindrak, people don't realize how freaky of an athlete Mark Jindrak was.
Did you see where somebody was on a guy's shoulders and he went flat and drop kicked the dude on his shoulders?
Yeah.
It's unreal.
We used to at our different arenas, and I still remember doing it at the Staples Center, now the Crypto. We used to find like objects up in the ceiling that we'd be like, Mark, you can't touch that. And I'm not kidding. It would be like a bolt that's 12 feet in the air. And he would do it. Like he would like literally like just drop step and jump up, and he was a freak. He was a freak athlete. So he probably wins that. but I don't know. Mine might be prettier. I don't know. I don't know.
I love it.
Yo, he was. Yeah, I'm not putting myself in the same athletic category as Mark Jindrak.
It's always interesting to me because obviously there were a lot of like rules and limitations put on a lot of WWE wrestling in the 2000s, but we were spoiled with drop kicks in the 2000s. Like, my God. Like I saw drop kicks back then and I was like, man, this guy has a great one. That guy has a great one. And now it's like none of them have surpassed that, even with, you know, science and athleticism and the way that people take care of themselves, like evolving. Still, some of the best drop kicks were 20 years back.
We're just superior athletes.
There you go.
Born and bred.
There will be kids today, like, you know, when you'll pop on to like the ESPN Instagram and they'll be like, Jordan was playing against plumbers and optometrists and stuff.
Yeah, it's the recency bias. If it didn't happen, on their phone, then it never happened. And
fair point.
Yeah, it's this. But I can think about when I was, you know, in the, you know, coming up, and I grew up watching the NWA in the 80s and thinking just how much I loved that, but how much different of a style we wrestled than those guys did.
Yeah.
You know, so it's just everything. Listen, everything in life evolves and adapts. That's just that get on board or get off.
A fellow who worked a little bit of a different style than you, Bill Goldberg. You actually teamed with him a number of times. Like, I mean, when you think about it, like, you might have teamed with him as much as a lot of other people, really, because like I think you all did like a full month on house shows.
We did
a couple TV things. Like, I think you all had like 4 or 5 matches. You all ended up teaming up and facing like Flair, Triple H, Orton.
Evolution. You want to know how they sold it to me?
How was it?
Because that wasn't my only match of those nights. I would wrestle in like, because I think at the time I was maybe like the hardcore champion or something. I would wrestle first, second, or third, and you know, early in the night. And then they told me, they were like, you're gonna have to tag with Bill. And I was like, I'm wrestling earlier in the night. They're like, it's gonna be easy. You just go out. They're gonna, this is the term they use. They're gonna, like, after your music comes out, Evolution will be in the ring. When Bill's music comes, turn around. One of those guys will Pearl Harbor you from behind, and that'll just start the heat. It'd be like it's just easy. You're just taking heat, and that's literally all I did. I would just get the hell beat out of me for 15 minutes, and then make that hot tag, and here's what's best about it. Because Bill would come in and blow his 30-second comeback, you know, finish with his spear jackhammer, and to get the pin. And I was like, do you want me in the ring to celebrate with him? They were like, oh God, no. They're like, roll out. They're like, roll out to the floor. And
that is so good.
And at that point, I understood why his checks were vastly different than mine.
Oh, I love it. I love it so much. So interestingly enough, that happened in like late 2003. And then you were on Heat for quite a while after that. And then I always assumed, at least the online rumor was, Shawn Michaels got hurt and they were like, well, let's heat Maven up, get him in this Survivor Series match. Is that how that unfolded, or was that always the plan?
I don't think it was always the plan. I think or probably 2 or 3 injuries that they were probably back at production meetings, flipping through pages furiously, and they're like, finally, like, well, shit, we got Maven. You know, let's see what he can, what he can do, and because it came out of nowhere. It literally, I went from Sunday Night Heat, Stevie Night Heat, and then in one of the biggest storylines, actually in the biggest storyline at the time. And I mean, I still, one of the most fond memories I have in the business is looking back on the night I was GM, because I was in like 11 of like 16 segments, and I think I pulled it off. I don't think there was a time that I flummoxed anything, and so I'm proud of that, you know. And then I leave that show thinking, my God, this is every week for guys like Hunter and Randy and Cena. This is just Sean. This is every week.
It was interesting to me back then because I was like, well, I wanted some resolution to the stuff that you had with Evolution like a year prior, and this was sort of that resolution. I loved that Survivor Series match because to me, a Survivor Series match with stakes, and that one had big stakes because Evolution was controlling the show effectively with a heel GM. That was something really, really like that had me invested. Like, what type of preparation goes into a Survivor Series match to that degree?
Yeah, it's a lot of moving parts. A lot of moving parts. And I mean, when all 8 guys got together, first thing you figure out is how much time you got and how much time because you want to give everybody their shine. You want to give everybody, just their own moment in that pay-per-view. And it could be something big, it could be something small. And you want to let everybody just prove to the fans, this is why I'm here. And then at that point, it's just like, if I don't know if you grew up, I grew up like disassembling stuff. And
Sure.
At that point, it's like when you're a kid, and you disassemble an engine and then just put it back together. So we're basically disassembling a match from how are we going to get everybody their shine. And then you put it back together with where does all these pieces make sense putting them in.
I thought that a really brilliant way to follow up that Survivor Series was the fact that they had Triple H being like, listen, you don't have to challenge for the world title. You could give me the night off and I'll let you join Evolution. And
I love it. I love it when people ask. I love it when people get mad. They're like, why did you join?
Yeah. So, I mean, that's a story. Like some of my friends that are involved in wrestling that I'm like, this is a thing that should be revisited. Like somebody who has this great opportunity. And like, that was the catalyst for you turning heel was like, he was like, I had the opportunity. It could have been me. I could have been there. How is that presented to you? Because like, I thought there was so much more they could have done with that because that was great that you were a heel, but also you were a heel who, like within your own mind, still kind of hated the top heels on the show because of the opportunity that was presented to you.
Yeah. Well, if you remember at that time, after the Survivor Series, the following night, the Raw in Indianapolis that was my first night as GM. And then there were 3 more. I mean, so we were running the month out with guys from that Survivor Series, that were going to, be in essence GM for the night. So, it really made no sense let's say I go out and then shock the world and Hunter turns the strap over to me. Well, then what am I going to have the guys that I was just teaming with chasing me down? No,
exactly.
That doesn't really make sense, but what does make sense is me having my first run at it, failing, and then seeing the guys that I was tagging with doing, still advancing the ball for them, and then me getting upset with it and turning heel. When I turned heel, man, that's when I started having the most fun in the business. And to this day, I vastly love being a heel way more than a face.
And then like it even ended up making sense because I remember you faced, I think it was Orton in a beat the clock match months later. And because he was babyface at that point and you were heel at that point, it made an awful lot of sense. Gosh, I think that was the next month even. So I mean, so like the fact that you had like he was the guy that had he had already been with Evolution. You had already been through that with him. You had teamed with him. And then it worked there because he was like on the verge of, he was about to go back, but you had seen everything that he had accomplished too. And oh my God, I thought it was really good. I really, really enjoyed that.
It was good writing. And what's funny is that Randy and I were riding together at the time too.
Okay.
I used to love it when it was the best when he and I would have a loop, an entire 3 nights on the house shows and then wrestle on Raw. Because that was like a night, that was like a week off because wrestling him was so easy. And then, knowing that we were going to be able to fine tune a match for 3 nights and then pick and choose from what worked and put it on the Raw, I always knew I was going to have great matches.
A thing I'd always wondered after your WWE run, I know you did a bunch of shows. It was for UWF, TNA. Did you ever have like talks with TNA about coming in? Because I wasn't sure if that was like TNA reaching out to you or UWF reaching out to you to do those shows.
Well, it actually was UWF. I was buddies with the guy who owned it and ran it, Hermie Sadler. I actually bought my truck off him because he had a Cadillac dealership. Yeah. And but it was always pitched to me, hey man, if you're ever interested, the door is open. And I just honestly, I was a kid.
You faced him once too. I remember reading that on the results. You faced Hermie Sadler.
Yeah, it was. It's funny too when you get in there with someone who isn't a worker, but they're trying. Like it's funny to see how those people feel. It's just because if I grab somebody that's a worker, I know. Like when I go to move, they're going to move with me. With somebody like that, you got to actually physically move them. And but I loved Hermie. I had a blast. Hermie got me back into wrestling. He reignited. I was bitter at the time. Like I felt like my heart was crushed because when the WWE fired me, and it was like Black Tuesday or whatever, because they fired a lot of people on that. I think it was the 5th of July. I just did a video about it, and but I was shocked. Because I thought if I go back and I watch my matches, I was progressing. I was just getting better. Yeah. And I thought my heel turn was starting to work. And I like the fact that they just let me go. It hurt. It hurt a lot. And I just had the mindset that if they don't want me, to hell with them. And in fact, to hell with the business. I'll find something else to do in entertainment. And then that led to the Surreal Life and
I love the Surreal Life.
Yeah,
I love it. I'm a Surreal Life geek, man. Like I loved it, and I thought it said a lot about your character. Or your character as a human being, when you would see like members of your cast that were getting harassed out in public, and you were like, "No, this shit isn't gonna fly. This isn't gonna."
Listen. I don't care. I don't care how you live your life. I don't care what you do behind your doors. I don't care who you love. I don't care how you decide what you do for a living. I don't care who you vote for. I don't care what you do when the lights go out. What I do care about is a bully. And I detest bullies. And that's probably because in 9th grade, I was bullied. And there was no better feeling than actually seeing the person after I got into wrestling at a convenience store.
Oh, wow.
And confronting them and asking. And, because in 9th grade, I hadn't hit my growth spurt. I was a short, little, pudgy kid and probably like 5'4". And then when I saw 5'4", I don't know how much I weighed, but it wasn't impressive. And then running into him, and this person, didn't look much different. And at the time, I was 6'2", like 240. And being like, you remember me? And putting his head down and be like, yeah. I'm like, but then I thought, I'm doing what I detested in him. So I just
fair.
I hate a bully. I hate it. I cannot stand a bully.
But I seen, and again, it's been 15 years since I watched it, but I remember somebody said something like very rude to, I think it was Alexis Arquette. And you're like, no, that shit is not going to fly here.
Yeah. And all they did it for was to make their buddies laugh.
Of course.
Like, I love a joke better than anybody. And if anybody ever goes through my phone and sees how me and my buddies talk to each other, I'll get canceled tomorrow. But I'm not doing that to people that aren't on that level with me,
Yeah.
And I don't know. I just hate it. I just cannot stand bullies. And Alexis, she couldn't. Well, I thought she couldn't stand up for it, but she did. I just wanted her to know that she wouldn't have went into that solo.
Yeah, I mean, why? That also always made me wonder when you were there in that house. Did you all ever talk like, oh, your brother was in wrestling a little bit?
A little bit, yeah, a little bit. And I mean, there was just so many different personalities in that house. And once the cameras went off, then you would actually get to get to know and get to see people for who they were. I mean, I grew up and Tawny Katane was probably my very first crush.
Yeah.
Watching her in the Whitesnake video, and then getting to spend 2 weeks with her in a house, I got to see a completely different side of her. So.
Well, people have got to see a different side of you and your YouTube channel. I mean, it's taken the wrestling world by storm. It's incredible. I'll never forget. I was just like, that's kind of what we do. We look for news on YouTube and all that stuff as we're writing articles. And I see one of your videos and I'm like, oh, it's Maven. That's awesome. And then I watched it. I was like, oh my God, this is
actually
next
good.
level. It's next
actually
level.
Good.
Like
Yeah.
beyond good. Next level. Yeah. Like the things that people would naturally ask about. Like what is the process of deciding what you'll talk about? Because at this point, I mean, you're a monster on YouTube. You're a juggernaut.
Oh yeah, I mean, I wouldn't go that far.
I would. I see the numbers.
All right. Well, I look at like Shannon Sharp, like that's a juggernaut.
Okay, fair.
That like fair. Stuff like that.
Well, that's easy. Just interview Cat Williams. There you go, Maven. Solution.
I would love
It'd be great.
And here's what we're trying to do. All we do, and this is how it was pitched to me. My partner approached me and he said, wrestlers make the mistake of making wrestling videos and putting it on YouTube and hoping they do good. He's like, we're going to make YouTube videos that just happen to deal with wrestling. And then he gave me homework and he gave me all these different YouTubers to watch. And he was right about all of them because every one of them had a couple things that gripped me and that I would be like, 2 minutes into a video and be like, well, I got to see this to completion. Yep. Why is it? What are they doing? And that's the kind of stuff we try to do in our videos. And another thing we do, you'll notice in my videos, there's no like hefty entrance. My entrance is, hey guys, Maven here. That's it. And then I'm in the video. And the same with the exit. There's no, all right, then that's the end of it. And then, going off for another minute. We end the video as quickly as we start them. Why? Because it helps the algorithm. If people watch a higher percentage of your video, I don't give them time to click off.
It's a good idea.
When they're going to click off because they know there's no more information, they're 99% through the video. That just helps the algorithm and stuff. So yeah. I mean, and then it's just been like he had to talk me into the stuff people be interested in. He was like, yeah, I want you to talk about what was in your gear bag. I'm like, why the hell would anybody want to know that?
It's everything.
They do.
The line of thing people will always ask me because I report a lot of backstage news and they say, why do you report this, this, and this? And I said, because when I was a teenager and when I was in my early 20s, I wanted to know everything I didn't know. I draw the line, obviously, personal relationships, marriages, bedrooms. I stay out of that shit. Not my business. But like anything and everything that I like learning, people enjoy learning. Like whether or not, maybe they didn't enjoy school, but about the topics they love, they want to learn as much as possible. And
absolutely. And people want to feel like they know they're in the know. They want to, and I think, and for the people that, and we get the comments, and I respect everyone's opinion. If you think we're giving too much of the business away, I respect that completely. You can feel that, but I think we're making people smarter wrestling fans. Like take Undertaker's channel, 6 Feet Under.
Oh yeah.
I think it would have been a sin for people to only know the Undertaker. Now they get to know and be a fan of the Undertaker and see the human of Mark Calloway. That's perfection to me.
Isn't it wild how a guy who didn't talk for most of his career is one of the greatest storytellers verbally?
Can't shut him the hell. Can't shut him up.
His one-man show was incredible.
Oh, he's so captivating. We went out to Austin when I did 6 Feet Under and then he did ours. And we went out and I got to add to my bucket list of things I've done. Undertaker bought me a steak in an Austin steakhouse.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so we get done eating, and we'd had a couple cocktails, at least I did, and the restaurant was empty, and there's probably, gosh, it's Taker, Godfather, Midian, me, Chris Van Vliet, my partner, and then two of Taker's buddies. And Taker goes into story mode, and it was literally like when you were in kindergarten and your teacher got everybody to get on Indian style around the carpet. We were all like circling around to hear him tell stories, and he's one of the most captivating storytellers of this generation. And I personally think it would just be it would be misfortune to not have those because of kayfabe that really doesn't exist anymore. If you think we give away too much, that's fine. But I have a lot of people that leave in the comments, "Hey man, I don't know who you are, but I love what you do." Or, "I haven't watched wrestling in forever, but I'm now watching the product again." And I think that's a win.
Like I consume so much wrestling as a day job that whenever I'm not doing it, I would rather do anything else. Yeah. And then when your videos play, I'm like, you know what? I want to see this through. Like it's not me clicking off to watch, something from Good Morning Football or something like that. Yeah. It is one of those things where it tricks me into not even realizing I'm working at this point because they're so enjoyable.
That's what was our goal. And literally learning, I would watch videos of YouTubers that I had no clue about and it's really no interest. Yeah. But they would just present information, and there's really a science to it, the way that you can present stuff. And I would find myself captivated, with how something's going to end. And that's all we're trying to do.
Well, I encourage you guys.
Hey, it's working.
Oh, listen.
It's working.
We just got our 100,000 last year, and I was like, oh, thank God. Thank God. But listen, when you get in the favor of that algorithm and you get on fire, man, you guys have just done incredible stuff.
Yeah.
Incredible
and
stuff.
I'm very fortunate because I get on and I don't spend all day looking at the comments, but I'll look at some of them, and I see like some of the same people comment over and over, and that's our heart and soul. I love that we have fans that just wait for the videos and every Friday are relentlessly tuning in, and it literally means the world to me that I can go from wrestling obscurity, doing a signing or here and there. I mean, I haven't been in the ring, in a WWE wrestling ring, in almost 20 years. Think about that. And the fact that I can do that and now be back in the business in some form or fashion, it's humbling.
Speaking of, before we did this interview, I hit up a friend of mine by the name of Nydia, who told me to tell you hi.
I love Nydia.
And wonderful.
How sweet is she?
Just wonderful. She hadn't done an interview in years, and I had kind of put out there on Twitter, I think it was 3 or 4 years ago, like, yeah, she's a dream interview of mine. Yeah. I was a tough enough fanatic. And Gail Kim hit me up and was like, I can get you in touch. And she was just wonderful. She'll still drop like Merry Christmas, Happy Birthday texts every so often. Just a wonderful, wonderful person.
She's one of the sweetest human beings you'll ever meet.
I believe she did her first signing in ages, like maybe 5 or 6 months ago. Really? So it made me so happy to see. But people will be able to see Maven on September 4th, Logan Square Auditorium, Black Label Pro Crowning Glory. They're going to be going back and forth between matches and this combine that I am so excited for. As a guy who covered sports for a good portion of his life, I love a good combine.
Sean, I got to tell you, and I have to be perfectly honest, I get asked to do shows, I get asked to do signings, and the one thing that I'm not great at is motivation. Like the one thing this has given me is the ability to say no when I used to be able, all right, I'll go do that signing. Now I don't have to. And I say no to a lot of stuff. And it's mainly because I still have a full-time job.
Sure.
And then 1 week out of the month, I'm gone in South Dakota filming videos. So, like, it's hard for me to find the time. But when Mojo hit me up and told me what his vision was, like, I couldn't say yes quick enough. This is one of those ideas that, like, you ever see somebody invents something and you're like, man, why the hell didn't I think of that? This is one of those ideas. This is one of those, why the hell hasn't this been done before ideas? I think it's going to be entertaining for wrestling fans and for just your common sports enthusiths.
Oh, I love it.
It's chock full of names and talents. And the thing I'm most happy about is that I have hosting duties and that I'm not going up against these competitors.
You also just solved a mystery that my wife and I had, because when we saw you in the airport in Chicago, we go, what the hell is he doing in South Dakota of all places? It makes sense.
That's I fly, because every time I go, I fly from Newark to Chicago, and then Chicago to Sioux Falls. That's my God. I've made that trip more times than I care to admit.
Well, looking forward to seeing you on.
I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to it. And we have a couple good elements in this. We have the element, obviously, of it being on Chris Van Vliet's live.
Oh, I'm so excited.
And we also are going to have something on our channel that's going to. Nice. I don't want to give it all away, but
of course
we're going to do something on our channel.
Don't worry, guys. I'll leak all the information.
Leak it all
on FightfulSelect.com. Check it out, guys. It's free. It's on Chris Van Vliet's YouTube channel. It'll be right before AEW airs on September 4th. Maven, I want to thank you so much. First time, hopefully not the last time we get to do an interview.
I did see. Did you see? I commented. I saw your video where you said you were saying I was nice. Thank you for that.
Oh, you were wonderful. Yeah, you were wonderful. And that's what I told people. I'm like, because there are so many people who will ask me, like, well, how do I make myself a presence? And I'm like, be you, be genuine. Yeah. And if you're a good person and you have the knowledge, it will shine through. And every time I have ever interacted with you, the personality that I see on your videos that has made you such a success it's real. That's just how you are.
I tell everybody, I'm like, what you like this? I'm not I'm not a good actor. Like, so I can't, like, what you see on the videos, I don't know how to be anything but that. And I'd say, if you see me, come up to me, talk to me. I was in the grocery store just 2 days ago, and I had a guy who was like, literally, he would go up the aisles as I would go. And finally, he came up. I was like, come over here, man. And he's like, are you Maven Huffman? I'm like, I am. And it's just, I appreciate, being able to meet the people, and I love hearing what they like off the channel. It helps us. It helps us know which direction, what are working, and something that maybe we need to go in a different direction. But I do remember meeting you. I'm so sorry I messed up your. I'm so sorry I messed up your spot with Shazza.
No,
I had no clue.
It was so funny. Well, listen, nobody had any clue. It's one of those things where you find out what time you go in and what time or who you go out vaguely around, and then you sort of work your own angles. And the thing was, I was going to come out, interview Shazza, make fun of her for not having a green card, kick her in the head, and we would do our match eventually. And then you come back through with her, and she goes, "Sorry, mate, it's Maven." And I was like, in that moment, I go, I know this girl, and I know that's her favorite wrestler.
Yeah, well.
And I'm like, listen, that's one where you're just like, I can think of something else. And fortunately, I knew who was in the ring, and I was like, what can I say? Okay, I can say subscribe to FightfulSelect.com, where you can read about all your favorite GCW wrestlers getting fired by AEW. And Joey Janela would love it. And he looked at me after I said that, and he goes, that's good shit.
Yeah, that's
so
good.
I was like, you know what? I'm glad that moment happened for Shazza. Yeah. And since then, that woman took care of me in the ring for my first match in like 8 years. So I was very fortunate how that unfolded.
The thing about wrestling is I think sometimes the best stuff happens when it's unscripted.
Exactly.
I really believe that. They sent me out there that night with, how many drop kicks you think you can hit? And I'm like, man, probably not any. I'm shit, I'll be 50 soon. I probably can't hit any. And he told me, he was like, all right, there's gonna be 5 people out there, and he was like, do you think you can throw 5? And I'm like, man, they're not gonna be good, but I'll try. And it was fun just going out. And I have a thing now. I'm like, as long as I don't hurt myself.
Yes.
I don't want to be traveling into New York City on crutches.
There you go.
Yeah. So as long as I don't hurt myself, I just want to have fun. So, but I am sorry. I am glad that I saw you with Dango. And
oh, that was so cool.
Yeah.
It was so funny when I met him before that, because like I've covered his career and I met him before that. He goes, hey, are you Sean Ross? I was like, yeah. And he goes, you're like famous, man. And I was like, what are you talking about? I covered your WrestleMania match with Chris Jericho. What are you like? Is this a rib? And then I saw you two. It's funny because I saw him and then I look up and I'm like, shit, that's Maven. And I was like, wait a second, Maven wasn't at the show we were just at.
It's just a different world we live in. We live in a world now where I can be walking through an airport and a guy like Chris Van Vliet, somebody who covers what I did, can walk through and be as well known or more well known than me. And I'm sure you get probably recognized and hit up from people, and you probably never get used to it, do you? Like I'm still
never
not used to it.
Never. Like I was at Best Buy last week getting my wife a phone, and this guy was like, Sean Ross Sapp, and I was like, how do you know me? Like, how does this thing?
When that happens with my girl, like the girl I've been with for 14 years, and when we first started dating I lived in Tampa, and I got Devon to get me tickets to what was it? Was it TNA at Universal?
Yeah.
And so I take her there, and like I'm backstage, and like everybody's coming up, and Maven on. You know, I got everybody stopping what they're doing to come say hi and show me love. And I'm thinking she's eating this up. And we go and we watch a little bit of the show, and the fans get a little Maven chant going. And I'm just sitting there in my peacock mode, you know, strutting around, making her think I'm just king shit. We get in the car. She shuts the door. She says, don't you, and in her Jersey accent, don't you ever take me to that shit again. It's ridiculous. She hates wrestling, hates it with a passion. And at that point, I knew she was the one.
Oh, that's incredible.
So if we're someplace and somebody comes up and meet and like says something, I'll nudge her and I'll be like, I told you I was important. And she'd be like, shut up.
I love it. And see, for me, it's always like a little bit like, okay, it's unusual because I went through most of my life and nobody knowing who I am. My wife loves it. She thinks it's the coolest thing ever. And I'm just like, okay, well, just wait until I beat Jerry the King Lawler at this Black Label Pro Combine in a 40-yard dash on September 4th. I'll smoke his ass, and you guys can check it out on Chris Van Vliet's channel.
We're going to have to get our sundials or calendars out to measure that.
Oh, my God.
This coming from the guy who is not going to run.
Well, I'm wearing a suit. I'm keeping myself exempt from any bits.
Too.
So
yeah, me too. And I'm wearing it partially for that reason.
There you go. There you go.
I don't want no surprise Maven. You want to arm wrestle? Come up. Yeah.
So listen, that arm wrestling is going to do crazy views. It's going to do. It does bonkers traffic on YouTube.
When we were going through the production meetings of talking about what to put in and what to take out, that was the one thing that we just knew has to be in.
It has to be. It does crazy traffic.
Yeah, because for the video we're gonna do, like that's gonna be our thumbnail.
Yeah, it's got to be. You know, guys, check it out. Black Label Pro Crowning Glory on September 4th. It is. I'll be there. Maven will be there. Chris Van Vliet, Brian Zane, another wonderful YouTuber, will be there. It is live streaming on Chris Van Vliet's YouTube channel for free. Maven, I want to thank you so much for taking the time.
Anytime. Just let me know.
Until next time, my friends, we are out. Are high pay-per-view prices getting to you? Maybe MLB blackouts, maybe the insane cost of Sunday ticket, whatever it might be. NordVPN.com/Fightful is here to help. You get NordVPN.com/Fightful. You change your virtual location with one click. Maybe you want to be in the West Coast when you can't watch a game on the East Coast. They got you covered. Maybe the pay-per-view prices are just too high or there's too many of them. Switch your virtual location overseas and get the prices that they're paying there. NordVPN.com/Fightful does it all for you. And that's in addition to their password manager, their protection on public Wi-Fi, the ability to use it on all your devices, including your router, your TV. It doesn't matter. They've got you on all those. And a 30-day money-back guarantee. Maybe you're just feeling wild and you want to try it. Well, you know what? In 30 days, if you don't like it, spoiler, you will. You can get your money back. NordVPN.com/Fightful.